Hi, welcome to How to Grow Your Business with Kevin Willett I. As you can see, I have my friend Emily with us from EG Creative. Good afternoon, Emily. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin.
So, Emily, before we jump into my questions, tell us a little bit about yourself and the business.
Sure. So, my name's Emily. I am located in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I am an SEO consultant and writer. I help businesses figure out who's searching for them online, what are they searching for, and how to get connected with them.
Awesome. So, my question today is about content type and frequency. So, for instance, I'm a big video person, as you can see. I don't like to write. It's not one of my skill sets, so I rely on video. I have other friends who are amazing writers, and I'm like, you should do a video. No, absolutely not. Never gonna happen. Is one better than the other? Should you use a mixture of the two? What should you do?
Well, the best kind of content is the content you're actually going to create. So, you love video. I was someone who never did video. I thought you could never get me to do a video. You actually encouraged me to, and I have done some, and they've done well. So, but I by default am a writer. That's my trade, and I like writing. So again, the best kind is the kind you're going to do. So if you only want to do video, you only want to write, that's okay. But in an ideal situation, you'll have a mix of video, written content, and images. And the reason is this gives you lots of ways to appear in search results. But it can also depend on your type of business. So let's say I own a local hair salon, right? I am only going to be serving people who live within a driving distance to my business. I'm not going to have someone flying in from France to get their hair cut here in the Boston area, probably.
Oh,
So I have to think about, okay, what do people around me really want to know? They're going to want to know if I'm running a salon, they're really going to want to know what my work looks like. So in that case, videos and images are going to be the most important because what I do is a very visual product. It's something people see.
makes sense.
Um, you'll want to have some content on your website, of course, explaining like your experience and your credentials and maybe the products you use in your salon and where you're located and how to find you and how to get in touch. But in that regard, you're going to want to focus more on visual content. For someone like you who does teaching and networking, video makes a lot of sense. In that case, if you are creating a lot of video content, one thing you can do is use an AI tool to transcribe your video and post the transcript on your website as a blog post. That's totally fine to do if you feel like you want more blog content. In my case, as someone who is a writer, I'm now experimenting with taking an article I've written because that feels very comfortable to me, and then recording myself reading it, like audio, and then using that to create a YouTube video, which almost like a little podcast episode that people can listen to if they don't feel like reading my long
Yep.
blog. So there's ways to take what you're most interested in doing and what feels most comfortable to you and work it into different formats. But again, it really does come down to what your customers want too. Uh, you know, again, hair salon, they want to see what you look like. Me, I work as a writer. People want to see my writing. They're like, well, am I going to hire this woman to do this if I've never read her writing? For you, people want to know what it might be like to have a conversation with you or to learn from you. So once you settle into what feels the most comfortable, I think that's the best spot to be in, and you can start playing around with other types of content.
What's really funny, Emily, is I get a lot of messages from people about my accent.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, my Boston accent. Yeah, they're like, "Hey, I love watching your videos. You have the silliest accent I've ever heard before." I get a lot of that, which it's engaging, so it's okay and stuff. But it always makes me laugh when people comment on that and stuff. So, now let's talk about frequency because we're
Yeah.
been guilty of this. Emily, I am gonna do a video every day, 3 times a week, whatever the magical number is. And then I stopped doing videos under Kevin Willett. I'm more focused on Professor Kev now. And I still get messages going, dude, where you at? I haven't seen a video in forever. Like you're the video person, you're not there. So when that happens, their friends will reach out to me. But if you're a potential customer and you see it stop, Kev must just be a professor now. Kev must not be done something else. Most people aren't going to ask. They're just going to assume that you're not there. So getting a frequency pattern is important and sticking to it.
Yeah, it is, and that's hard to do. If you're writing content for your website, and like if you go online and you see that most of your competitors have blog posts, that's
Yep.
probably a good indication that your audience wants that. So whether you're writing something from scratch or transcribing a video, you got to have blog posts up in that case. So if you're doing things like that for written content, you want the more frequently, the better. At minimum, once a month, if that's going to be, if your website is going to be your main driver of traffic, minimum once a month, ideally once a week, if you can swing it. Now, maybe you drive, like I drive a lot of my business through my network and through LinkedIn. So when I write content, some of it goes on my website, but a lot of it also goes on my LinkedIn page. So you can split it in that regard too. If you're doing videos, what I suggest is, because that can be pretty time intensive, what I would suggest is making your video and then chunking it out into smaller pieces. Like you can still put the full, like for instance, our conversation here, you can put the full video on YouTube, but maybe edit it down so there's a minute snippet here, a minute snippet there, and use that across your social media platforms. That's not SEO specifically, but it helps brand reach, which is good for getting more people to know of your business.
I like that answer because I have a friend that does that. We do videos together, and his daughter, breaks up each question. So
Hmm.
shows the beginning, and then we ask that question. He's like, I love doing your videos because I get a week's worth of content just from
Yeah.
spending minutes chatting with you and stuff. You're taking that pressure off. And, because he's in the finance space as I was, he's like, I don't even have to think because you'll ask questions because you know it as well as I do. So you'll know what people want to hear and stuff. So it just, I guess the biggest question is don't overcommit.
Yeah, don't overcommit. And know that something is better than nothing. So, like when it comes to SEO content that you want to be found in search results, like frequency is the name of the game, but you don't have to sit down and think like I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do it every week. Do what you can. And I like what you mentioned about your friend whose daughter cuts up the videos because I have found that, when we've done videos together, it has been a great way to get multiple posts because I'll have the video that you post that I can reshare. I can transcribe it and share little snippets of my our conversation. Cutting out by each question, that's a great idea. So come up with the basic amount that you can commit to, like once a month is a good minimum. Any less than that, you're really diluting it. But at least most people can commit to at least once a month, and then think about how you can turn that one piece of content into multiple pieces.
Okay, you led us into the bonus question. That was
Okay.
nice lead. Thank you. How about repurposing content?
Yeah.
Maybe 6 months from now, you want to share this video because someone was asking about this topic. Is it ever too much? Like, hey, you've reshared that 10 times. It's just stop. Is is repurposing, can it be bad? I guess is my question.
It's a good question. So repurposing at its core is not bad, but you do have to think of like fatigue that your audience might have from seeing the same thing over and over again. So when it comes to repurposing content on your website, that can be bad. So if you have a blog post, like a web page, you don't want to ever repost that same content on another page on your website. So if I have a page over here, I don't ever want to take that content and put it on another page. That creates what's called duplicate content, and it can have a negative impact on how well you appear in search results. But you can share content across multiple platforms. So you could post a video on YouTube, transcribe it, and put it as a blog post on your site, then take a snippet of that video and share it on TikTok and so forth. And I would say, generally speaking, if you're sharing stuff across, so your website, once and done, once it's on a page, that's the only page it's on. But if you're sharing stuff across your social media pages, and caveat, I'm not a social media expert, but I've been in the marketing game for a long time. If you're sharing it, I would say generally 2 to 3 times over the course of that many months mixed in with other content, and then you gotta retire it. Maybe you can resurface it a year later, like as a memory, like, oh, hey, on this day last year, I was talking to my friend Kevin, and guess what? A lot of the stuff we talked about still holds true today. That's fine. But if I'm reposting, like, I think we're having a great conversation. If I repost this once or twice on my LinkedIn page, people are going to like it. I'm going to reach some people who haven't seen it before. If I repost it every week for 6 months, people are going to be like, Emily, do you and Kevin not ever talk about anything else?
All right, bonus question.
Okay.
You brought up something that I think is important. You have to make sure it's still relevant. Like in your
Yeah.
industry, SEO changed so much since our very first conversation a few years ago. If you're going back to the archives and just because it showed up in your Facebook memory or whatever, and you're hitting it, like, oh my God, I just told to do something that's going to kill their website because that doesn't work anymore. So before you reshare it, reread it, watch the video, make sure it's still relevant.
100%. And if it's not still relevant, you could say, and maybe if I did a blog post that was about something that used to be best practice in SEO, but now it's changed because AI search and things are changing, what I could do is I could reshare it and say, wow, this was a blast from the past. Can you believe this used to be how it worked? I don't think that's the best way to repurpose content, but if you are like desperate for a post and you're just in vacation mode, sure, do that. But yeah, generally speaking, never repost something without checking to see if it's timely, especially if your industry changes a lot like mine.
Yep. Just like I said, it does come up, that things do
Yeah,
change. So, Emily, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to learn more about this topic or any other related to SEO?
you can find me online at egcreative.com or connect on LinkedIn.
Awesome. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thanks, Kevin.